discipline, self-control, grit. These are only a few of the things taught at House of the Samurai, where world-class champions and world-class teachings come together under one roof. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the New Hampshire Business Show. My name is Chris Pastrana, and today we're here with Danielle Temmen of Revitalized Performance. How's it going?
Very good, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's get into everything. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yes, so I'm a physical therapist. I've been practicing for a little over 8 years now, and I opened up my practice, Revitalized Performance, which is basically a performance-based physical therapy clinic in Bedford, New Hampshire. And basically I specialize in helping a couple different types of people. So active individuals, so that can be anyone that has difficulty walking or wants to get back into like a walking program. Mm-hmm. It could be someone who wants to get on the floor with or on and off the floor with their kids or their grandkids. I also treat runners, so people who want to improve their running, whether that be increasing their distance in running, increasing their time, or decreasing their time, right? Becoming a more efficient runner, or having knee pain or hip pain or foot pain with running.
Yeah.
And then I also treat athletes, and majority of those are going to be CrossFitters. So I treat about 70% of the population I see is CrossFitters. There's a couple reasons for that. I know probably the reason why you're thinking, but I'll get into it. So one of the reasons I treat CrossFitters primarily is because, one, my clinic is based in a CrossFit gym. Okay. So
makes sense.
That's one of them.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, that's a good reason. And then I also CrossFit myself. Mm-hmm. I really am like big into the CrossFit community, and you'll hear people say, how do you know someone's a CrossFitter? Because they talk about it. It's because we take a lot of pride in what we do and our community. And honestly, I believe in what CrossFit, their like motto is and what they've come to be known for, which is like getting people healthy and getting people moving and preventing chronic diseases, which is so prominent. Like, so I think saw a study recently. It was like 70% of Americans die of chronic diseases and illnesses. And when I say chronic disease, I mean like strokes, heart disease, obesity and diabetes, those type of things, right? So it's trying to prevent that, right? And there's a big stigma against CrossFit, and we can chat about that. I can chat about CrossFit this whole podcast, but we'll not make it a CrossFit podcast. But there's some stigmas in some bad rap on CrossFit and injuries, and if you go do CrossFit, you're going to get injured. And they've actually done a lot of studies on that as well. So they looked at people who across similar sports, so Olympic lifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, football, and things like that. And CrossFit is actually super low on the injury risk rate. And I always get a lot of people that come to see me that don't CrossFit, or when I talk to people that don't CrossFit, and they go, well, you're going to get injured if you CrossFit. Would you rather have a knee pain or deal with type 2 diabetes? It's like, okay, CrossFit, you're going to get injured no matter what kind of sport you do, especially if you're competitive, right? But what chronic issue would you rather deal with? Like a shoulder pain that you can usually fix, or like a chronic illness that might kill you? Yeah. It's like, put it on the spectrum of things, right? Yeah. But yeah.
So it's just funny that you brought that up, because I'm not in good shape now, but I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to CrossFit all the time back when I was in the military.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So I totally get it.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, and when you start talking about injuries, I just started laughing because I see it all the time, and a lot of times it just comes down to technique. 100%. You get into it. People, when they start, they think they're doing fine, but as you get tired, that technique kind of goes crazy.
Right.
So yeah, you can get injured with anything you do.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the injuries do happen, not so much in the new people that come and join CrossFit. Mm-hmm. It happens in the athletes that are a little bit more. They're a little bit better or more advanced, because they end up overtraining, and then their muscles and their joints start breaking down and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So it does it happens across the board for everybody, but more the injury rate is going to be in more of those like advanced competitive athletes. But yeah, for sure.
That's too funny. So let's get into this a little bit. So you're a physical therapist. You help people who have knee pains, all these things going on. So let's get a little bit. What is a physical therapist? Yeah. Because some people know, some people don't.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's a lot of similar fields out there. Like we were talking beforehand, there's massage therapists. There's, that wheel can get pretty
Yeah.
full.
Yep, for sure. So a lot of people actually don't know what physical therapists do, and I think that's kind of common. And then people who do know only experience maybe like one type of physical therapy, and they're like, oh, this is how physical therapy is across the board. So when people don't know, I just tell them like we're movement specialists, and typically we focus on helping people return to activities or movements that they've been avoiding because of pain. And we do that in a couple ways. So we do that by assessing how they move. So if it's a runner that having knee pain with running, I'm gonna assess their running, right? If it's someone having pain with Olympic lifting, whether that be snatching, cleaning, or just squatting or deadlifting, I'm gonna look at their form. And then I'm gonna test their strength in that movement and then outside of that movement. And then we look at some maybe mobility restrictions that might be predisposing this risk for injury. I think one of the biggest things and one of my goals is eventually having physical therapists known as like going to a physical therapist as like a preventative service and more of a first responder than after injury. So wouldn't it be nice, like, so if you were someone who I don't know, you drove to work like an hour each way every day. So you're doing a lot of sitting and you sit for work, right? Where you have a manual labor job where you're bending and lifting or twisting all day. And all those factors are like known research factors to predispose someone to lower back pain, right? So if you know you're someone that is at increased risk, wouldn't it be nice just to go and get some exercises before your pain even starts and go, okay, I can do some stretches as a preventative exercise before the pain starts. And I can tell you what, it's going to be a heck of a lot less expensive if you tackle the problem before it gets there. And people do that type of stuff all the time. Dentists, you go to the dentist every couple months to prevent cavities. You go to, you get your oil change for your car every couple months so it doesn't break down and it runs well, right? So like, why are we as a society waiting till our bodies break down to going to see someone?
Yeah, it's a very interesting idea there. I started laughing. I used to sell cars. Yeah. And you said the oil change thing. And I'm like, most of the time people are supposed to do that stuff. They often don't, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so to get back to that, we don't really take care of our bodies the way we should. And of course we see that across culture with obesity problems and, all that type of stuff. But it's like that preventative stuff, people just don't do it.
Right.
You don't think about your body until it's in pain, or you don't think about your mind until you're suffering. And so there's a lot of things that people just don't even think about.
Yeah.
And then you hurt yourself. You're like, oh, I have to go see the doctor. And they put you in the physical therapist, never even thinking that, oh, maybe if I do that beforehand, I could not be here.
Yeah. So it was that quote, like, if you don't make time for your health or wellness, you're going to have to make time for your illness, right? So I truly believe in that. If you make, I'm talking small changes, right? You do like a stretch once a day to prevent lower back pain or prevent neck pain from coming on. It can really take you a long way. And what I mean by like a first responder for pain too is, if we think about people who, we'll take lower back pain as an example because it's a chronic, a lot of people have lower back pain, right? You have lower back pain and you hope that it goes away. So you wait maybe a few days and it doesn't. So you've wasted a couple of days there. Then you go and you see your primary care physician. And one of the things that they might do is give you an x-ray. So they give you an x-ray, maybe some medication, and then they send you home. And typically what happens is your pain doesn't change. Now you've paid for this x-ray, you've wasted about a week to 2 weeks getting medication that maybe you shouldn't have taken or maybe you didn't need and it wasn't helpful. And then you go back to the primary care, and because you're still having pain, they're not sure what to do with you because they see a wide variety of issues, right? They'll send you an orthopedic doc. All right, so a couple weeks to get in, maybe 2 weeks to get in with an orthopedic doctor. And then they're going to do one of two things. They'll either give you an MRI, or at that point, then they'll go and send you to physical therapy. So now you've wasted about 3 to 4 weeks of time in pain, and you've gotten an x-ray, you've gotten an MRI, you've seen multiple doctors, and you're still having the same exact pain that you did when you first started. So as a healthcare system, that's a lot of money wasted as well. And I won't get into it too much because but MRIs and X-rays are so overused and overutilized, and there's a purpose for those, right? Like they rule out fractures, they rule out something insidious like cancer, cysts, tumors, things like that, right? So there's a true purpose for that. But the common mechanical lower back pain, even if you did an MRI and the person has degenerative disc disease or disc herniations, which are the big ones that everyone comes in and tells you, oh, I have disc herniations, I have degenerative disc disease, it's my back is bad. They've done MRIs across like hundreds of people with lower back pain, people without lower back pain, and they're finding that even people without lower back pain have disc degeneration and disc herniations. It's a normal part of aging.
Yeah.
What do they say? It's like wrinkles, but on the inside of our body, right? It's just normal aging process.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's fun. So let's see. Okay, so you said we kind of touched base on what you do, kind of how stuff. So let's start with brand new patient decides, I want to go talk to you.
Yeah.
How does that process kind of work? Because a lot of times fear stops us from doing things like going to see a massage therapist. There's a lot of fear in there, which is kind of funny. And so someone comes in, they're like, oh, hi.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm so-and-so.
100%. So one of the things that I do at Revitalized Performance is when someone contacts me is they get a 15 to 20 minute discovery. We'll call it like a discovery visit, which is on the phone. So I get to know a person before they even like walk in the door. So we talk about the pain that they've been having, the limitations that they've been having, and then their goals. So that way our first treatment is a little bit more focused. And the follow-up would be coming in for an initial eval, which is always a 1 hour treatment. And basically we look at like mobility and strength and all the things kind of I talked about before that we do. And then we start really treating their pain and trying to eliminate that pain from day one. And I think the big thing on day one that we do also is we set up a plan, like a long-term plan, because pain is reoccurring, right? So lower back, 50% of the time, lower back pain is going to come back for you. If you've had it once, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, you're going to have it again, okay? So what happens if it comes back? Can we prevent it from coming back? If it comes back, what can we do for exercise to kind of nip it in the butt before it starts expanding or spreading down your leg or something like that, right? So, and then after that plan, we'll set up visits. And for me, which I'm a little different than other practices, which I can talk about also, I see people on a once a week basis because they're an hour-long treatment. Yeah. And I'll see them once a week for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then we'll start spanning maybe every other week or once a month. And then some people choose to continue with me even after the pain is gone, to prevent other pains from coming on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because it's fun because we're talking about physical therapy, but also sounds like fitness coach a little bit too.
A little bit, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So that kind of gray area in between there.
Yeah, which insurance doesn't cover. So I can kind of get into why we're a little different, but performance based. A lot of times insurance. If you go to a traditional physical therapy clinic, let's just take, for example, something people can relate to, an ACL repair. Average visits in a traditional physical therapy clinic is about 20 to 30 visits, which is a lot. And the time span can be anywhere from like 3 to 6 months that you're seeing this person for, but a lot of insurances won't cover that amount of time. And you're making that person being able to walk again, going up and down the stairs again. But say if it's a kiddo or someone in high school that wants to return to basketball and they need sharp cutting movements, they need to be twisting and turning and really confident in that leg, that way they can get back to their sport. Insurance they don't care. Yeah. Like they won't cover it. Like if they're functional, they're not covering that care for him, and it's a bummer because that's the stuff that people love to do, and that's what keeps people healthy and moving as a society. But insurance goes like, well, you're functional, you can walk, you can go up and down stairs, you must be fine. So that's kind of where my clinic comes in and going like, all right, well, you might be fine, but can we take you to the next level so that we can get back to your sport or activity? Yeah.
I always find that interesting because you said you're at that point where they won't pay for the extra. But then if the person starts doing that activity again, they can very easily put themselves back in the beginning of the whole thing.
Yeah. ACL repairs, like the chance of that happening again on the opposite leg is so high, and the chance of it happening again on that same leg is high as well. So, so if you can better prepare someone to get back to a sport or activity, in the long run, you're decreasing the amount of healthcare that you're using, right? Decreasing the cost. But insurance company doesn't look at it that way. They don't pay for preventative care. They don't pay for the what ifs and things like that. They pay for, okay, you have pain, fix your pain, you're done with physical therapy. And that's just not the way our healthcare should be at this point.
Well, there's a good argument to be made in that realm, but
Yeah.
I'll stay out of the politics.
Yeah, for sure.
So as far as your clients go, because I know you're in a CrossFit gym, do you have a typical age that you service, or do you take anybody, but it kind of happens to be that because of where you are?
Yeah, I would say I take, when I say anybody, like, I'm not treating like kiddos. Like, like I see a couple kiddos in like middle school and stuff. I think that would probably be like my age limit. I'm because I really am doing like more specialty work as far as like sports and stuff. I would say the most common age is anyone from like in their 22, 23 realm to I see people as old as like in their 60s, but I would say like majority is like in the middle, like 40s and 50s for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
because that's that weird area where the minute you step over the 30 line, your body just starts going really quick.
Yeah, for sure. And you have to work a little harder, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of, I actually have a fair amount of people that are in CrossFit. They're in their like 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're doing phenomenal. But they're comparing themselves to like people in their 20s and 30s. I'm like, you can't do that, but you're still doing something, which is awesome. So they have to just be a little bit more mindful about their positioning, their postures, and mobility restrictions that maybe they haven't had in years, and now they're trying to throw a barbell over their head or something like that. So we just try to prevent those injuries from coming on as well.
Yeah. That's funny. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the list here.
Yeah.
So coming to see you over just doing exercises on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So coming to see me versus doing exercises on your own, I think this is like the common thing I get from people. Can you just give me a few exercises to do? Like someone will stop me in the gym and be like, I have shoulder pain. Just give me a few exercises. Like, what can I do for my shoulder? Or what can I do for my lower back? I get that a lot at family parties, actually. What can I do for my wrist? It hurts. And it really does take someone coming into the office and doing like a full mechanical evaluation. Because everyone's pain is so different. And there are common movements or stretches or exercises that I will give, but it doesn't mean that exercise or movement is right for everyone across the board. And that kind of goes into like some of my specializations that I do as well. So one of the things that I do is it's called the McKenzie method. It's actually it was on Good Morning America last Wednesday, which was pretty awesome. But basically, McKenzie method is a specialization where we specialize in the spine as well as other orthopedic injuries. And that method involves doing an assessment specific to that person. So you're treating that person on how they move, how they feel, not based off of their imaging. So it's really tough to give just random exercises out if you don't know, if I don't know like what movement is limited or how does it feel when you move in this direction versus this direction. So it's very specific to each person. Yeah, for sure.
Kind of a funny note. Because this type of stuff always comes up at my family events too,
for sure.
And again, I'm a big gen. Everyone in my family is very similar.
Yeah.
So someone's like, "Oh man, my back is killing me," and I'm like, "I'll lose 50 pounds." And because the same symptom can have a lot of different causes. I forget what that's called. There's a word for that, but it's a medical thing, whatever. So your gut is pulling your back out of alignment, or it could be an injury. There's a lot of things. So
100%.
Seeing someone with like a degree, not a degree, but at least the specialty, the knowledge of that is important.
Yeah. And so that's the other thing I tell people is like every physical therapist is a little different. We all now have to go to school and get our doctorate degree, and that's a whole other thing. Like I'm happy that I have my doctorate degree. It's not something I brag about, but like it's more money that school wanted. Yeah. But so some therapists have their master's degree. Some therapists have their bachelor's if they're a little older, right? They've been practicing for a while. But now we have across the board, you have to get your doctorate. What happens after your doctorate degree is completely up to you as an individual as therapist. In New Hampshire, we have to take a certain amount of continuing education courses per year to maintain our license. In Massachusetts, you have to take none, which is pretty scary. So it makes us being consistent, up to date with current practice and what's out there. So very similar to someone who wants to see, like has a heart disease or something like that. You want to see someone who specializes in that, right? You go to see a cardiologist. I don't think people think of it that way for physical therapy, but they should. If you have something specific and you're having a pain with some sort of movement or some sort of body part, you should go to see a physical therapist that specializes in that body part, right? Whether that's pelvic pain and you go to see a women's health specialist, or a running pain and you go to see someone who specializes in that, right? I specialize in a couple different areas. So really being mindful of who you choose to go to see your physical therapist, because I've heard it across the board. There's good therapists, there's bad therapists, there's good doctors, there's bad doctors, right? But everyone treats very differently across the board, and the reason why is because of their background and their specialization. So I've just to do a little bit more into the specialization, I already talked about my McKenzie specialization, but I also I don't know if you've heard of dry needling before at all.
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
So so people kind of confuse it a little bit with acupuncture, but we use acupuncture needles. We put it into tight tissue to help bring blood flow to the area. It also helps release this like endogenous opioids, so our body produces these natural opioids, which are pain relievers, right, into the area. So it can be super helpful for someone dealing with chronic pain. The other thing that I do is blood flow restriction training. Have you heard of that a little bit?
That I don't know.
Yeah, so BFR, blood flow restriction training. Actually, a lot of like pro sports teams have been using it, and now it's kind of getting to now like the normal population can use it too. Actually, Adrian Peterson, football player who had a major ACL injury a few years ago, he actually used that to recover and come back. So he's had pretty good success. And then I know the Bruins also use that as well. So a lot of big name pro sports teams are using it. So basically what it is, it's called BFR, but it's brief intermittent occlusion. So it's basically restriction of blood flow to a limb, right? So to give you an idea of what it is, say you had a knee injury, we'll use for example. We would put a cuff around your leg, very much like a blood pressure cuff, and we would pump that cuff up to then occlude a certain percent of blood flow to your limb. Now, in normal exercise, what happens is our body produces these like metabolic byproducts. So I'm sure you've heard of like lactate or lactic acid or something like that, right? That's normal. That's a normal process. But with the cuff, it keeps that metabolic byproduct in that leg, so it traps it in there, as opposed to having it flushed out through fresh blood, right? And what that does is it causes our muscles to fatigue way faster than it would with normal exercise. So you're doing this exercise, so let's say squats for a knee. 15 squats feels like 50 squats, okay?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, and the good thing is that so it's making that muscle fatigued, and when the muscle gets fatigued, it goes to a second or third layer of muscle fiber. So it's trying to recruit more muscle fibers than it normally would during normal exercise, because you're still trying to do the exercise, you're still trying to do the movement, but the first layer of muscle fibers have already burnt out and fatigued. Does that make some sense? So it increases more muscle fibers to the area, so it increases your strength under really low load. So you don't have to do the 30 squats. You could just do the 15 squat or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the person and what they're going for, but yeah, it increases muscle strength in really low load situations. It increases actually growth hormone, and I think it's like IGF-1 or something like that, which is just basically like a repair hormone. And so it's meant for people who maybe post-operative, right? So you can't bear weight, or a fracture, you can't bear weight on the leg. It's meant for people who want to recover from injury, or say you did have an ACL repair, you rehabbed it, and maybe your quad or your calf strength never really came back to fully what it was. So it's helpful in all those areas. And then the other thing is I have a specialization in running. So I'm a running technique specialist. So I've done a bunch of courses on like specifics on how to break someone's running down. And then in 3 weeks, I'm completing my CFMA, CMFA, Certified Management of Clinical Management of Fitness Athlete. It's all these like funky letters at the end of the name. Basically, what that means is like I took a bunch of coursework specifically for athletes, specifically for powerlifters, Olympic lifters, CrossFitters, right? So, so I'm able to treat them a little bit more specialized than other people, right?
That's
so,
cool.
yeah, so like some physical therapists are pretty decent about breaking someone's back squat down or analyzing the back squat or deadlift or something like that, right? But not a lot of physical therapists are good at looking at someone's Olympic lift and going, well, can we change it? Looking at their snatch, looking at their clean or something like that. So that's kind of where I took those extra courses. Okay. So I love education. I love learning. You ask me like every couple weeks I'm like in a new course and I can't get enough information. I'm like, give me all the information.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because we could sit here and talk about that literally all day. That's crazy. But let's leave it there.
Yeah.
How do people find you, reach you, get in touch with you? Which gym are you in?
Yeah, so I'm in CrossFit Amoskeag, which is in Bedford. Yeah, if you want to contact me, you can certainly give us a call. I have a Google number, so haven't had it memorized yet. So 978-237-0336. And I just want to make one more point is why we're a little bit different than other people. It's just because we are treating people one-on-one, right? We don't ask people to come in 2-3 times a week, so we can give that individualized care. And if you've ever been to a traditional physical therapy clinic, they're seeing like 2 to 3 or more people at a time. So you have to come in a little bit more often and things like that. So we're a little bit more specialized. So so I'm in Bedford, CrossFit Amoskeag, and that's my number. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening. If you're in pain, need help, definitely do that. Reach out even before it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Want more New Hampshire Business Show? Find us at iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and www.nhbusinessshow.com.